Then, the moment I've been waiting for. I finally hooked into a monster.
For decades, scientists believed the Amazon was already understood. That confidence ended when a series of discoveries forced a reassessment. Researchers began documenting organisms that behave in ways biology cannot easily explain, and predators that disappear in plain sight. These findings were not isolated.
Finally, we have found a poison frog. Get ready. This is the granulated variety.
They formed a pattern no one expected. As the evidence grew, scientists realized the forest was not just unexplored, but actively misunderstood. Here are 15 shocking discoveries in the Amazon you never heard of. Number 15. The slaty-masked tinamou. For 3 years, scientists kept hearing something that should not have been there. A single bird call, deep inside Brazil's Serra do Divisor National Park, carried cleanly through the rainforest and then vanished. No movement followed it. No bird ever showed itself. The sound didn't match any known species, and the forest refused to give up its source. That kind of silence is never comforting. In November 2024, researchers tried a final tactic. They played the call back into the jungle. Moments later, 2 birds stepped into view, calm and unafraid. What emerged was not just undocumented, it was dangerously out of place. The slaty-masked tinamou stood in the open, about the size of a chicken, with cinnamon-tinged feathers and a dark mask stretched across its face. Its body was round, its eyes wide and unblinking. It made no effort to retreat. As the researchers approached, it did nothing at all. That was the problem. Wild birds don't behave this way. They calculate risk instantly. They flee before you finish the second step. This one stayed still. Later observations made it worse. The birds crossed exposed ground slowly, without scanning, without urgency, as if predators did not exist. To experienced ornithologists, the meaning was immediate and grim. This was the same behavioral flaw that doomed the dodo. Isolation had erased fear, and there are very few of them left. Current estimates suggest roughly 2,100 individuals survive, all confined to a narrow band of high-elevation forest above 1,000 feet. There is no second population, no migration corridor, nowhere else to go. On paper, the Serra do Divisor is protected. In reality, those protections are under pressure. Proposals to downgrade sections of the park are already circulating. In nearby regions, tinamous are hunted for food. For a bird that doesn't run, survival becomes a matter of luck. This isn't the discovery of a rare species. It's the moment a countdown becomes visible. We are watching vulnerability before it turns into disappearance. And unlike past extinctions, we won't be able to pretend we didn't see it coming. Because the forest didn't reveal this bird by accident. It revealed it late. Number 14. The harpy eagle. Like most flight birds that announce their presence with warnings and cries, the harpy eagle simply shows up in an instant and snatches its prey. Named after the vengeful wind spirits of Greek mythology, the harpy eagle embodies a perfection of predatory design that took millions of years to refine. Its talons, longer than a grizzly bear's claws, exert crushing force exceeding 530 pounds per square inch, strong enough to shatter a human skull or snap the spine of a full-grown monkey in a single strike. Yet despite weighing up to 20 pounds and ruling as the Amazon's apex aerial predator, this magnificent raptor moves through the dense jungle canopy with an almost supernatural silence. How does something so massive become invisible? The answer lies in evolutionary genius. The harpy eagle's wings are broader and shorter than those of eagles dwelling in open skies, and this is an adaptation that allows it to fly through the tangled branches of the forest with impossible agility. In addition to its wingspan and stealth, its distinctive facial disc, crowned with raised feathers that give it an expression of perpetual alertness, isn't decoration but sophisticated hunting equipment. Like the facial structure of owls, these feathers direct sound waves toward the eagle's ears with remarkable precision, allowing it to pinpoint the location of prey moving through foliage so thick that sight alone would prove useless. When a howler monkey shifts position 100 meters away, the harpy eagle knows not just where it is, but which direction it's moving and how fast. But witnessing a harpy eagle's hunting strategy reveals something that statistics cannot capture. This predator doesn't simply chase its prey. It studies patterns, learns routines, and executes ambushes with calculated patience, a hunting pattern that makes it feel right at home in the vast jungle of the Amazon. But what happens when another creature of equally massive proportions takes over the water below? Number 13. The giant otter. You might mistake them for dolphins when you see them swim. But these creatures bear formidable teeth, and they hunt in packs with a coordination that would make wolves envious. Meet the giant otter, a 6-foot creature of sleek muscle, playful curiosity, and shocking ferocity wrapped in waterproof fur. They bear many names across South America, but perhaps the most telling nickname, used by those who have witnessed these animals defend their territory, translates simply as river tiger. In a realm where camouflage often means survival, these creatures have instead chosen conspicuousness as their strategy. Each otter's throat bears a unique pattern of cream-colored markings. These are individual signatures as distinctive as human fingerprints. Researchers use these patterns to identify individuals, but the otters use them too, recognizing family members and rivals at a glance. Their social structure revolves around extended family groups dominated by a monogamous breeding pair, with the cooperation extending to hunting, where groups will actually herd fish into shallow water, cutting off escape routes with tactics that suggest not just instinct, but genuine strategic thinking. But it's their relationship with the river's most infamous resident that truly reveals their audacity. When a giant otter group encounters a caiman, the Amazon's alligator-like predator, they don't flee, they attack. Yet underneath this bold exterior is a vulnerability that grows more acute each year. While they need clear water to locate prey and hunt effectively, gold mining operations upstream release mercury and sediment into the river systems, and the otter's hunting grounds transform into murky, poisoned corridors where survival becomes increasingly difficult. Already, these remarkable animals vanished from much of their historic range, hunted nearly to extinction for their luxurious pelts during the fur trade era. And while they continue to live and grow deep in the Amazon, the last traces of nature's most intelligent animal still linger behind. Number 12. The mouse with webbed feet. Hundreds of miles to the west, in the densely populated Alto Mayo region of Peru, another expedition was uncovering biodiversity that defied every assumption about life in human-modified landscapes. This wasn't some pristine, untouched corner of wilderness. This was home to 280,000 people. A landscape carved by agriculture, crisscrossed by roads, dotted with towns and cities. It was, by all conventional wisdom, exactly the wrong place to look for new species. Yet in June and July of 2022, when Conservation International's Rapid Assessment Program team ventured into the Alto Mayo protected forest and surrounding areas, they stumbled into an ecological treasure trove that would rewrite the rules. The 38-day expedition would document over 2,000 species in total, but buried within those numbers were creatures so unusual, so unexpected, that even experienced field biologists found themselves repeatedly shocked. Among the most extraordinary was something the scientists had genuinely never encountered before in their careers: an amphibious mouse with partially webbed feet. This wasn't your garden variety rodent. The semi-aquatic mouse represented something almost mythical in mammalogy circles. A carnivorous, water-adapted rodent so rarely seen that most mammal experts go their entire careers without encountering one. When Trond Larsen, the expedition's director, first laid eyes on it, he knew immediately this was something special. The mouse's feet, partially webbed and adapted for aquatic locomotion, marked it as a predator of water insects, a niche that required extraordinary evolutionary specialization. But here's where the story takes a sobering turn. This amphibious marvel was found in only one location, not scattered across Alto Mayo's watersheds or in multiple suitable habitats. One single patch of swamp forest, and that patch is threatened by encroaching agriculture. If that forest disappears, the mouse might disappear with it. The species may literally exist nowhere else on Earth, but the Amazon has life in abundance, including the one that lives and hunts on 8 legs. Number 11. The silk hinge spider. What appeared to be nothing more than an innocent gap in the vegetation was actually one of nature's most elegant ambush mechanisms. A door made of silk, hinged with architectural precision, and operated by a spider that has turned minimalist engineering into an art form. The silk hinge spider is one of Amazon's best hunters, and while it lacks the gaudy size of tarantulas or the notorious reputation of wandering spiders, it has perfected a hunting strategy so refined that it borders on the supernatural. Rather than building the sprawling orb webs that most people associate with spiders, these tiny engineers construct something far more subtle. A trapdoor made from silk and debris that sits flush with the bark or leaf surface, concealed so effectively that even researchers specifically searching for them often fail to detect their presence. The spider digs a small burrow in tree bark, leaf litter, and sometimes in the hollow stems of plants, and then constructs a circular door that fits the opening with watchmaker precision. The hinge itself, composed of dense silk fibers arranged in a specific orientation, allows the door to swing open in one direction while maintaining enough tension to snap shut afterwards. Yet despite their ingenious adaptations, silk hinge spiders remain among the least studied creatures in the Amazon inventory. Their cryptic lifestyle makes them difficult to locate, and their small size means they often escape the attention of researchers focused on larger, more charismatic species. But speaking of charismatic species, a stunning discovery in the Amazon can kill you in a split second. Number 10. The poison frog. It is no bigger than your thumbnail, but it might be the most audacious creature you've ever heard of. The Amazon poison frog doesn't simply exist in this rainforest, it blazes through it like a living ember, with its body wrapped in patterns of electric orange, jet black, and spots of blue so vivid they seem to pulse with their own light. But here's what makes this tiny amphibian truly extraordinary. It has weaponized beauty itself. But those colors aren't for decoration, they're a warning written in nature's most ancient language, advertising the alkaloid toxins that coat its skin like invisible armor. Indigenous peoples discovered this chemical arsenal centuries ago, carefully extracting these compounds to tip their hunting arrows. Yet the real marvel isn't the poison, it's how these frogs acquired it in the first place. Unlike many poisonous creatures that manufacture their own defenses, this poison frog steals its weapons from the very insects it feeds on, like ants, mites, and beetles, with each meal adding another chemical to its toxic cocktail. But the audacity doesn't end there. These frogs have transformed the dangerous business of parenthood into something approaching art. The females lay their eggs in the tiny pools of water that collect in bromeliad plants, natural cradles suspended high in the forest canopy. And once the tadpoles hatch, the mother returns repeatedly to these aerial nurseries, depositing unfertilized eggs for her young to eat. But while this animal lives a complex life and will kill an adult human in minutes, it shares its habitat with another freak of nature that is equally dangerous, if not more. Number 9. Electric rivers and ancient predators. Danger lurks everywhere in the Amazon, but to witness one of the most shocking innovations, you need to visit the rivers in the Amazon. Here, the water runs dark as tea and visibility drops to inches. But in here, two groups of fish have independently arrived at solutions so radical they seem like science fiction. The piranha, with its reputation, needs no introduction. But strip away the Hollywood mythology of razor-sharp teeth and frenzied feeding, and what remains is far more fascinating than any fictional monster. Yes, piranhas possess jaws that can shear through flesh with industrial efficiency, and can detect a single drop of blood diluted in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But recent studies have revealed something unexpected about these supposed killing machines. They're strategic thinkers. Researchers observing piranha discovered that these fish don't attack in blind, chaotic swarms. They coordinate and take turns, with the younger, smaller piranhas waiting their turn while larger, dominant individuals feed first. They're selective about their targets too, preferring injured or dying fish, acting less like mindless predators and more like the Amazon's cleanup crew, removing weakness from the gene pool with surgical precision. Then, there are the electric fish, creatures that make the piranha look positively conventional. In the murky Amazon waters where sight becomes useless, these fish have evolved something far more sophisticated than eyes. They've become living radar installations. Electric eels and their relatives generate electrical fields around their bodies, then sense distortions in these fields to navigate, hunt, and communicate in complete darkness. But the electric eel took this innovation and weaponized it. These creatures can generate shocks of up to 860 volts, enough to stun a horse or stop a human heart. Recent research revealed they do this with terrifying precision, using low-voltage pulses to scan their environment like sonar, then unleashing high-voltage blasts that cause prey muscles to contract involuntarily, giving away their location even when hiding. The eel then delivers a final paralyzing shock before consuming its meal. But what drives such extreme adaptations? The answer lies in the Amazon's paradox. It's simultaneously the most abundant and most competitive place on Earth, where resources overflow, but 10,000 species compete for each one. But while the discoveries of Amazon are mostly living, sometimes the most profound discoveries are the ones that existed before us. Number 8. The blobheaded fish. One of the most visually bizarre discoveries happened in Alto Mayo's streams and rivers, lurking in the sediment-rich waters that flow down from the Andes. The fish scientists on an expedition in 2022 had surveyed dozens of waterways and identified dozens of fish species across nearly 30 study sites. But when nets were pulled up from one particular stream, they contained something that made even veteran fish biologists stop and stare. It was a bristle-mouth armored catfish belonging to the Chaetostoma genus, familiar territory, or so they thought. Then they noticed the head. The fish's cranium had developed into an enlarged, bulbous structure, unlike anything documented in the genus before. It wasn't subtle. This was a pronounced blob-like extension that dominated the animal's profile, giving it an almost cartoonish appearance. Scientists immediately dubbed it the blobheaded catfish, though that nickname barely captures the strangeness of what they were seeing. The armored catfish family includes many species adapted to life on rocky riverbed substrates, but none had evolved this particular cranial morphology. What purpose does the blob serve? Nobody knows, and that's what makes this discovery simultaneously fascinating and frustrating. The function of this unusual structure remains completely mysterious. Is it a sensory organ packed with nerve endings for detecting minute electrical fields or vibrations? Or is it a hydrodynamic adaptation for life in swift currents? The indigenous people who assisted with the expedition were already familiar with this fish because they'd been catching and observing these catfish for generations. But Western science had never documented it, and had never had the chance to study its strange morphology in a systematic way. And it's a powerful reminder that the Amazon continues to surprise us, that even in the 21st century, with all our technology and databases, we're still encountering life forms that fundamentally challenge our understanding of what's possible. Number 7. The Boiling River. In the Peruvian Amazon, there is a river that is neither warm nor hot, but boiling. Water temperatures in this river reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to brew tea instantly, to scald flesh in seconds, and to kill any creature unfortunate enough to fall in. The slaty-masked, as the indigenous peoples call it, translates roughly to boiled with the heat of the sun. For years, scientists dismissed stories of this boiling river as exaggeration, perhaps confusing hot springs with an actual river. Because how could a moving body of water stretching over 4 miles maintain boiling temperatures without volcanic activity nearby? The answer, as geophysicist Andres Russo discovered, was hidden beneath the forest floor. Deep underground, fault lines allow rainwater to descend miles into the earth, where geothermal heat from Earth's mantle warms it to extraordinary temperatures. This superheated water then travels horizontally through subterranean channels before emerging in springs that feed the slaty-masked. The river isn't one boiling point, but many, a series of thermal springs creating a tributary system where water literally steams as it flows, creating banks shrouded in permanent mist, where the air shimmers with heat. But the twist here is shocking. The edges of this river host life found nowhere else. Thermophilic bacteria and archaea that thrive in conditions that would destroy normal cells, their presence turning the water into streaks of orange, yellow, and green, mineral deposits creating terraces that look transplanted from Yellowstone. But any creature that ventures into the water itself, be it anacondas, birds, or small mammals, all die within minutes. But in the wake of one weird natural phenomenon, another walks when it should not.
Number 6. The Walking Tree.
It sounds like something out of a movie, yet local guides of the Amazon will lead you directly to specimens and swear on their ancestors' graves that these trees actually move. The Socratia exoryza, commonly called the walking palm, stands on roots that don't burrow underground like respectable trees, but extend outward and upward from the trunk like wooden spider legs, creating a cone of stilts that lifts the tree several feet off the forest floor. The claim that's captured imaginations worldwide goes like this. When a tree finds itself in shade and needs to reach better sunlight, it grows new roots toward the light, while allowing old roots on the opposite side to die off, effectively walking toward better conditions at speeds up to 20 meters per year. To us humans, it is a slow movement, but it is unprecedented for something we thought of as fundamentally immobile. The trees certainly can grow new roots directionally, that's not disputed, but whether those new roots add up to true movement, or whether the trees simply grow asymmetrically while remaining fundamentally stationary, remains one of botany's most entertaining controversies. Whether the walking palm actually walks might matter less than what it represents, a freak of nature. But speaking of nature's loopholes, a recent discovery proved we may not know all there is about the Amazon. Number 5. The bald parrot. High in the Amazon canopy, where sunlight fractures into 1,000 golden shards, ornithologists whispered about a ghost, a parrot that seemed to exist only in folklore and grainy photographs that could never quite capture proof. The bald parrot earned its peculiar name not from age or disease, but from an evolutionary mystery that still puzzles scientists today. Its head, bare of feathers and flushed with brilliant orange and yellow skin, is in stark contrast to the emerald plumage covering its body. But there's more. These parrots engage in something extraordinary. They blush. When excited, threatened, or during courtship, blood rushes to the exposed skin of their heads, transforming their appearance in seconds. But here's what haunts researchers who've spent years tracking these elusive parrots. They're vanishing. Restricted to a narrow band of forest along the southern Amazon, their habitat fragments a little more each year. The trees that once formed an unbroken emerald sea now exist as isolated islands, surrounded by an ocean of cleared land. Each family group becomes more isolated, its genetic diversity shrinking with every generation. But if you think the Bales parrot is the last of peculiar animals in the Amazon basin, think again. Number 4. The pink dolphin. Where the Amazon tributaries merge and ancient sediments swirl, the water takes on color shades that seem impossible. And moving through these murky currents is a creature that has captivated riverside communities for centuries. The pink river dolphin, known locally as boto, lives up to its name. The pink intensifies with exertion, like when a male dolphin becomes agitated or excited, and blood floods to its skin, turning it a shade of rose so vibrant it looks painted. But unlike their ocean cousins, these dolphins retain the flexibility that seems almost impossible. Their neck vertebrae aren't fused, meaning they can turn their heads 90 degrees, and their flippers can move in ways that would snap the fins of an ocean dolphin, allowing them to essentially walk along the riverbed, probing for prey hidden in silt. But it's what scientists discovered about their minds that truly staggers the imagination. These dolphins possess the largest brain-to-body mass ratio of any river dolphin species, exceeding even their celebrated oceanic relatives. In waters so turbid that vision becomes useless beyond a few inches, they've developed echolocation so sophisticated they can distinguish between a fish and a submerged branch from 30 feet away, in complete darkness, through water dense with particles. And that is just the tip of what they can do. They can detect a single fish hidden inside a flooded tree hollow and navigate by sound painting the world in their minds, creating three-dimensional maps of a realm we could never perceive. Yet here's the heartbreak. Locals tell stories of how the dolphins used to follow fishing boats in playful pods of 20 or more. Now, researchers celebrate spotting 3 together. Mercury from illegal gold mining operations accumulates in their tissues, poisoning them slowly from within, and fishing nets, designed for a smaller catch, trap them underwater until their lungs burn and fail. They may be faced with extinction in the near future, but another Amazon discovery is here to stay. Number 3. The green anaconda. You may think you know everything about this snake, but all you know somehow misses what makes her truly extraordinary. The largest green anaconda ever properly measured stretched just over 27 feet, but what matters isn't her length, but her mass. She can weigh over 500 pounds, every ounce of it pure hydraulic power. And when she strikes, coiling around her prey, she doesn't constrict to suffocate. Instead, she interrupts blood flow, creating what physiologists call circulatory arrest. The prey's heart continues beating frantically, but blood cannot circulate, cannot deliver oxygen. Within seconds, the brain begins shutting down. It's brutally efficient, honed over millions of years into a killing method that wastes no energy. But here's what researchers only recently discovered, and it rewrites everything. These snakes live extraordinarily long lives in the wild. While most large constrictors might survive 20 years under ideal conditions, green anacondas recovered with tracking tags have been documented returning to the same breeding sites for over 40 years. They grow slowly, patiently, adding inches over decades. And yet, as development creeps closer and the forest shrinks, even this perfect predator faces an uncertain future. But adaptation takes stranger forms than scales and muscle, as we're about to discover in a creature so transparent, it seems half ghost. Number 2. The Amazon glass frog. It has a skin so translucent that its internal organs are visible beneath the surface. The Amazon glass frog, barely larger than a coin, has evolved to reveal its most vulnerable parts to every predator with eyes. The exposed organs blend and blur with the background and shadows beneath it. The frog doesn't disappear. It fractures perception itself. Your brain sees the organs, sees the background, and struggles to assemble them into a coherent shape. Predators experience the same confusion, their visual systems failing to lock onto the frog as prey. It's camouflage that works by revealing everything, an evolutionary paradox that shouldn't work but does, beautifully. Yet the glass frog's most remarkable trick happens at night, hidden from human eyes until scientists finally looked closely enough. Researchers at the American Museum of Natural History made a discovery in 2022 that seemed to violate basic biology. Sleeping glass frogs remove roughly 90% of their red blood blood cells from circulation and pack them into their liver. Their blood becomes nearly transparent, reducing light absorption by up to 20-fold. They become ghosts of themselves, nearly invisible even in infrared. Then, as dawn approaches, they release those blood cells back into circulation, returning to life in a surge of color and oxygen. They're performing a physiological magic trick every single night, and we only just noticed. But these tiny performers face a tragedy unfolding in slow motion. Glass frogs require pristine streams with specific flow rates and chemical compositions for breeding. A single contamination event, and an entire stream becomes unsuitable for reproduction. But the frogs don't just die, they simply stop breeding. Still, some creatures chose a different path, transforming vulnerability into something unexpected. Number 1. The Amazonian manatee. In the flooded forests where river meets rainforest in seasonal embrace, a shadow moves through channels too shallow for dolphins and too deep for land mammals. The Amazonian manatee surfaces with barely a ripple, and at nearly 1,000 pounds. This is the smallest manatee species, yet it faces challenges that would overwhelm creatures twice its size. Unlike their coastal cousins, who supplement river plants with marine algae and can retreat to the ocean's abundance, Amazonian manatees are trapped. When the rivers drop during the dry season, they retreat into isolated lagoons and oxbow lakes, and then they stop eating. For months. They survive on stored fat while the water level drops around them, sometimes becoming so confined that they can barely turn around. They endure temperatures that swing 40 degrees between day and night, and they wait, burning through their reserves, for the rains to return and the floods to reconnect their fractured world. Perhaps even more puzzling is their complete lack of defensive capabilities. No teeth suitable for fighting, no speed for escape, no aggression even when cornered. They exist as pure gentleness in a river full of caiman, anaconda, and jaguar. Yet they have survived for millions of years, through a strategy that seems to defy natural selection itself. These gentle survivors face a gauntlet their millions of years of evolution never prepared them for. When researchers count individuals now, they find populations so small, so genetically isolated, that each group exists on a knife's edge. One bad season, one polluted lagoon, one more kilometer of forest cleared, and entire populations could blink out of existence.